Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. Oh rock of ages, I'm standing on your faithfulness. Your faithfulness. I'm calling on the God of Jacob, whose love endures through generations. I know that you will keep your covenant. I'm calling on the God of Moses, the one who opened up the oceans. I need you now to do the same thing for me. Thank you. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. Oh rock of ages, I'm standing on your faithfulness. Your faithfulness. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. Oh rock of ages, I'm standing on your faithfulness. Your faithfulness. How do we know he's the same God? Did miracles back then, he can do them now. Thank you, Lord. You heard your children then, you hear your children now. You are the same God. You are the same God. You answered we're going to tell him we don't want anyone else. We don't need anything else. All we need is him. He's the answer. He's the answer for your life, not the world. Thank you, Father.
Getting closer, and so I was at work, and I was reading my Bible, and then the Lord finally gave it to me, and He's ministering to me, and I'm like, man, that's a good God. So I promise that God's going to meet you tonight on a personal level. I promise you will get a lot out of it. So, all right, my first scripture is going to be in Isaiah 53. It's going to be verses 4 and 5. Isaiah 53, verses 4 and 5. So in Isaiah 53, I'm going to start at verse 4. Verse 5 is really my main one I want to get to, but I'm going to just get a little bit backwards. So in chapter 53, verse 4, it says, "Surely he has borne our griefs, he's carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God and afflicted, but he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities, and the chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed." If you think Isaiah was written way before Jesus, way before, and you think they've already saying that he's going to die on the cross for us. It says, he was bruised for our transgressions, and he was wounded. You think he was whipped, he was beaten, he was speared in his side, and like all those whipping marks and all that pain and all those wounds that he went through is for our transgressions, for our hurts. When people do wrong against us, when we're hurting, that's what those are for our healing. And a lot of people think healing is just physical. It's not always just physical. Sometimes it's emotional, it's spiritual. It's whatever part of healing that you need. God is going to heal you through that. And I think a lot of that comes with just knowing that. Sometimes we get so caught up when, I really didn't understand this when I was younger, because I'm like, okay, well, physically he's going to heal me. And then you get older, and as you get older, and I get to know Jesus more, and it's like, okay, now I understand. It's not just, you're healing me just from just the physical things, but you're also healing me from the things that are spiritual and emotional and things that we go through. Then our next verse is going to be Psalm 147:3. Sorry, I gave myself a little cheat sheet, so I'll give you guys time. And Psalm 147:3, it says, He has healed the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Being brokenhearted is at any age, and it doesn't necessarily see a breakup with a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a spouse, or whatever it may be, or, you've lost somebody. But when God heals the broken heart, He heals. It takes time to heal a broken heart sometimes, depending, every situation's different in what time healing is. One of the things for me was two different examples. For one, when one of my friends, he passed away when I was 18. Okay, that it was hard for me, but it took me 5 years. So he passed away in 2008, 2013. I finally was able to let go and heal from it. But there was a lot of emotional damage. There was a lot of anger and hate towards the guy who killed him. And at that point in time in my life, I was like, man, how do I show this? I didn't have the love for that guy in my heart. Like, I wanted him to pay for what he done. And he ended up getting parole because my friend's parents actually spoke at his parole hearing. And they were pastors as well, and they were my hometown pastors, but they showed the love of Jesus even at that age. Like, I don't know, that would have been hard for me. At that time I was so angry for what he did. I couldn't heal from it at that point in time. In 2013, finally God released that from me, and I was able to heal from it, and I had to seek forgiveness because, like, I had that anger and hatred towards this man for so long. Like, I wanted him to pay for what he did, and to me, like, spending a year behind prison was not enough, but I had to heal from that. And God had to heal me from that, and it took me 5 years to heal me from that. Now, everyone's different. Now, it could be God delivered you a little bit sooner or gave you healing from a situation sooner than that. For example, my parents divorced when I was 18, which is crazy because in 2000, I moved here in 2009. I went to the Navy in 2011, and I was very blessed because at that time, I really wasn't on good terms with my dad. But at that point, he went from Ohio, he drove to Texas, he picked up my wife, he picked up my mother-in-law, he drove down to Chicago and come to see me graduate. And what blessed me was, like, when he saw me, he just had this big smile, like he was proud of me, like he's happy to see me. And that's where I got my healing. And you're talking like just a few months, maybe a year of healing. Like, each situation is different. Just I knew things were going to be going in the right path. But it took time. It was a different timing. It didn't take 5 years. God's hand's always in our healing. We don't always see it sometimes because we're going through the hurt and through the pain, and it's hard. Especially I was 18 and, like, going through divorce, and, like, man, like, that broke me. I was like, what is going on? And when I was in youth group, we went to this thing called Cleansing Stream Youth, and what it was is like a youth conference, and it's just dealing with those types of things, like deep hurts and things that you're going through. And it's like, man, I went up for prayer, and there was an older gentleman there, and he was praying for me, and he was a dad. And it's like, I knew right then and there I needed that. A dad, though, he prayed for me, and then he just gave me this hug, and I just broke down. Like, I don't cry, all right? I do not cry. You can ask my wife. I'm not a crier. My dad definitely didn't raise me to be a crier. So for me to cry, that just, man, that hit me. And I needed that, though. I needed that love of a father to give me a hug and tell me, hey, it's going to be okay. Hey, I'm proud of you. Hey, it's going to be okay. You're going to get through this. The Lord's going to help you through this. And I needed to hear that at that time. That was something that I needed to hear so I could heal. And healing is, sometimes your anger prevents healing sometimes. It does. Anger prevents your healing. Forgiveness is for healing. And we don't see that. Sometimes we don't forgive ourselves. I'm hard on myself. I'm very hard on myself. I don't talk about it very often, but I'm very, like, I'm so mean to my own self, and I will not forgive myself for the things I've done. Like, I feel like it's not enough punishment. You didn't do well enough. But I have to heal from the things I've done. And, the people I hurt, but because after I get the correction, I might not like it at first, but once I get it and it starts hitting me, the Lord starts dealing with me, that hurt, and then anger starts kicking in because I'm mad at myself. And then it's like, man, I can't forgive myself for the things that I've done. And the Lord has to get a hold of me and, like, okay, but you got to let that go. And if I didn't let it go, I was never going to heal from it. I had to be able to move forward from it. And, like, I don't like talking about that because I don't like, I guess, like, it's one of those things where it makes you vulnerable, where I don't like to talk about those things. But that's what we got to be vulnerable with the Lord. That's what he's here for, that he sees us. He sees everything. But when we take that time in prayer and seek the Lord and vulnerable with him, you get the healing process begins. and you see what God is going to do, your heart's going to start to heal. And it's not going to be maybe right away. It ain't going to be, next day, hey, I'm feeling great, I'm up and running. No, it's going to be time. It's going to take time, but you're starting the healing process. It is very much and just to back that up, it says forgiveness brings healing. 2 Chronicles 7:14 is where we're going to go to next. And Second Chronicles is hard to find in the Old Testament, so I'll give you a minute. I understand that. Even when I'm flipping through my Bible, I have to go back to the very beginning. I'm like, okay, what page is this on? So I can find it. So I get it. I know this scripture's been going around a lot. I've seen it on Facebook a lot, especially with everything going on in the world. But it says in 2 Chronicles 7:14, it says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and forgive their sin and heal their land. And sometimes land's also talking about us. It's healing us because we're turning away from the sin that we are doing. We're turning away from the lifestyle that we've been staying on to, going in the wrong path, hanging out with the wrong types of people. That when we turn from that, the Lord starts healing us. And sometimes we get so used to that lifestyle. It's so easy to go back to because that's what we're used to. We've made a habit of it. Our church just did a 21-day prayer chain. Now, a lot of people, they still do it because it takes 21 days to build habit. They're not going to quit doing it because now it's part of their lifestyle. It's part of their everyday prayer life. And see, that's something that you need to do. And when we turn from those things and we start, see, right there is when your forgiveness starts kicking in. Because the Lord's going to forgive you when you start turning to Him, letting these things go. And it's hard. It is hard to let go. When people do you wrong, it is hard to let go. And it's frustrating. It makes you angry. And you want to fight. But that's where we got to. Jesus didn't fight everybody. He wasn't out there throwing punches. He was, he was forgiving people. He was loving them, even though they did him wrong. Even on the cross, he still forgave them. He told God, Lord, forgive them because they don't know what they do. So being nailed to the cross, got nails in his feet, nails in his hands. He's got a crown of thorns that's just bleeding everywhere, bleeding out. And he's still like, God, forgive them. That's hard. Can you imagine doing that? Like, to have that sort of forgiveness. But that forgiveness is what you need to heal, to move forward, to move on. And man, when the Lord gave me this, I had to really dig in and had to work on myself. Like, man, the Lord was like, you need to also seek healing. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how much you go to church or how spiritual we may think we are. We still all need forgiveness. We all still need healing. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We're not going to live this perfect life. But when we humble ourselves and we, like, God, forgive me because I know I messed up, or, I know I did wrong. And even if healing's not, it's for you. That is what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is for you. I think sometimes we get so caught up as, like, I need to go tell that person, that I forgive them. Yes, sometimes you can't reach that person no more. But you know what? Lord, I forgive them for what they did to me. And God, forgive me for having that anger towards them, or that hatred, or that I want to get back at them lifestyle. Let God just give me, and I forgive them. And to go back to that, to back that up, if you go to Matthew 6:14 and 15, Jesus actually talks about that when he gives you, he prays. Because he gives an example in the prayer, but we're a little bit past his prayer part. You don't have to turn there. I'll just read, because it's a short scriptures. It says, for if you forgive men of their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. So this is a really important verse. You have to forgive them so you can get your forgiveness, so you can get your healing, so you can move forward. I'm not saying that every day, like, that person did you wrong. And yes, you forgave them, and they're still in that lifestyle. Sometimes you can't let them go. You can't follow them with their lifestyle. You need to, okay, they did me wrong, and I know that if I go back to them, they're going to still do me wrong. Then you need to separate yourself, because at that point in time, that's not where God's leading you. That they're not part of your journey anymore. The Lord gave me this today when I was praying about tonight. I just want to share this real quick. Give me just a second. The Lord gave me this. He goes, sometimes people are not meant to be in your life for every season. And they're not. Sometimes they're only there for a season to pick something up from them, to learn something from them, or maybe they're helped to mold you in some sort of way. But once they play their part, God's going to remove them from your life if they're not meant to be there anymore. And I learned the hard way that when my friend passed away, that okay, God, he served his purpose for, God did. He's above his time. If you got to talk to him, he was just, man, he knew God like his best friend. Like he walked with the Lord. I'm telling you, he knew God, like a close personal friend, and God called him home. But I knew he played his part in my life. Like that part in my life was done. And that I don't like thinking that, but I know that's the truth of it. It's like, it almost sounds like it's heartless, but it's not. It's just the reality of it, that he played his part. He my part of my life that I needed him to be in. And now I had to move on from that. I've had friends coming out of my life, jobs that have come in and out of my life, okay, but that part of those jobs or those people that were in those jobs or what it may have been, they played a part in my life, and now that part's done. It's time for them to go. But if I don't let them go, if I keep going back to that, or if I try to hold on to that, I'm not going to move on from that. I'm not going to learn from that. I'm not going to heal from it. A lot of jobs have done me bad, but I had to let go and give it to God so I could heal from it, so I could move on. I'm very blessed with the job I have now. But I had to heal and move on and forgive them. And that was hard because especially when in my last job, I was very, very angry at how things went with them. But I had to let that go. And God was so faithful and good to me, even though I didn't deserve it with my anger, that he had grace for me and to allow me to move into this job I'm in now. And I've been very blessed, but I had to let go. I had to forgive. And I said, okay, God, I forgive them. Even though they did me wrong, I forgive them. And I let it go. And that brings healing. It was hard for me back in May. Our kitchen caught on fire, and in that process, I caught on fire. And at that time, I'm very grateful because our pastor showed up at our house instead of my mother-in-law. But at that time, I wanted my mom. I wanted to call my mom because I needed to hear my mom's voice. But, no matter what age, sometimes when you're going through things, certain situations, you need mom or you need dad. But I knew if I would have called her, she wouldn't have answered. It's hard because with the husband she's with, he doesn't allow her to always answer for us. And it broke my heart because I know I couldn't get to my mom, and I was so angry because I was hurt, and I just want to hear my mom, But I didn't get that opportunity. And I had to really, God's been really dealing with me because I've been angry with that because I don't get to hear my mom's voice. It's sometimes what you need to hear. It's like you need to hear the Lord's voice in that still quiet moment. Sometimes you just need to quiet yourself. So I have been dealing with that, and the Lord's like, this is something you need to heal from. And I was like, okay, Lord. I was like, before I got to this tonight, I had to okay, God, I forgive him for the things that he's doing with my mom to control her, but I also forgive my mom for not being able to answer the phone and not being there. And I understand, I understand her situation, and God give me peace over it. And it was very hard for me because I was very hurt. And it broke my heart because I really wanted to, hear that voice. And the Lord wants to hear from us too. And when we're broken and we're angry and we probably, shout at the Lord and angry at him, when we seek forgiveness from the Lord, and, he'll forgive us of our trespasses, and he'll forgive us and start the healing process with us and help move us forward. And it's hard. Sometimes it is hard to move forward. It's easy to be angry when people do you wrong consistently on a day-to-day basis, when you're fighting things in the spirit, you're fighting things physically. It is hard. It is hard to let those things go and say, you know what, I forgive you for the things that you're doing to me. I forgive you for the hurt that you do to me and the harm that you've done. But that's where we have to move on. And it's hard. And I was watching a video before I got here, and it's talking about in Matthew that, people, if they're not with God, they're not going to hear you. They're not going to hear what you have to say. They're not going to hear the goodness of God. They're not going to hear that, hey, you hurt me, because they're not following the Lord. They're not going to hear what you're going to say because they don't want to. Their ears aren't there. They don't have the spiritual ears to hear you. And I'm like, man, that's good. And I just wanted to share that because in Matthew, it is actually 5:44. It says, but I say to you, love your enemies and bless those who curse you. So those who are your enemies and those who do you bad, you have to pray for them. And that is hard. It's very, very hard to humble yourself and pray for them no matter how angry you are with them. And I was with our pastor yesterday, and we were kind of talking about that. And man, it's like you can either pray for them or you can, because you can pray things like, man, I gotta, we come against them, and sometimes it takes time. But if you just pray for them, God, help them turn away from this thing. You're gonna get more. God's gonna honor that. He's gonna be like, okay, we're gonna start working with them. You might not see it right away. It's gonna take time. But that's the hard part, because you got to keep praying. And it says in the Word, you got to be consistent when you pray. And that's hard too, because life gets in the way. Life is like, man, I got school, I got work, I got this and that. Yeah, but when are we going to make time for God? And I am as guilty as anybody else, because I don't always make time for God. I don't always open up my Bible every day. But I've noticed the more I open up my Bible, the more healing I get, the more the Lord talks to me. And that's one thing that God has been teaching me. Also, so I think I skipped a verse I did. Okay, on James 5:15 and 16. It says, confess your trespasses, or let me go back. And prayer of faith will save the sick, and the Lord will raise him up, and if he has committed sins, he will be forgiven. Confess your trespasses to one another and pray for one another, that you may be healed. The effective fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much. So it just goes back to what I've been saying. When you confess what you've done wrong, the Lord will start your healing process. The Lord is going to heal you. That's why when you go to take, here at our church, when we go to take communion, we take our time to make things right with the Lord. The Lord forgives our trespasses and those we trespassed against. And that's important, because you do not want to, take communion when you don't, make right with the Lord. And, but that's part of healing. Just like it says here in James, it says, confess your trespasses to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed. We got to pray for one another. This prayer chain was amazing, because we prayed not just for church, but we prayed for each other in the church. It's lifting each other up, and that's what's important, is we had to lift each other up. And that's, as teenagers, that's hard, because we got peer pressure. We got, things at school, and some of you that are in college, it's even worse, because there's so many things in the college lifestyle that's more into the adult lifestyle, and you have to stay on the straight and narrow. But it's so easy to be taken off that path. And I want you guys to be rooted in God. I want to help you on that journey of staying rooted in the Lord, because it's easy to get taken off that path. When I was in high school, it was so easy for me to want to go do the wrong things. But thankfully, probably my sophomore year, I finally found a good church where I got into, or kept me on the straight and narrow, because, man, my freshman year was something else. You can ask my parents. I put them through a lot. But God kept me on the straight and narrow so I could go through what I had to go through, and I could heal from what I had to heal from. We go through things as children that sometimes I carry on as an adult. As a teenager, my parents divorced. People are like, oh, no, you'll be fine. You're 18. You're an adult. Yeah, I get it. I'm an adult. But, that was stable for me. I grew up with mom and dad in the house my whole life. And now mom and dad aren't there. My dad now lives in Georgia. My mom still lives in Ohio. But it was what we got used to. You get used to those things, and that thing, it hurts. It's hard. It's hard to adapt to. People expect you to just be okay with it. But I had to heal from that. And, thankfully God has healed me from that. And the Lord has been, healing has been something we've been talking about. Our pastor was preaching about that Wednesday, about healing. And that's what we need, we need to heal so we can move forward in our lives. And it's hard to let go of the things from people who hurt us. And that's, man, the Lord's been dealing with me on that. And to be wanting to, I want to fight. People make, I'm ready to fight, I'm going to just fight instead of just pray. And God's like, no, you got to stop. You got to pray. Because God's been working on me with this. And when he's showing me this message, he's like, these are the things that I only personally have to fix myself, but also that you guys need to hear, because I don't want you to go through and be like, man, this person did me wrong. And then you hold all this anger and hatred, because it brings bondage and chains, and it weighs you down. I'm telling you, when you start forgiving people and letting things go, that bondage starts going away. Those chains start breaking. You start feeling lighter. You really do. It's like, man, I'm a whole new person, and I feel great. But if you hold on to it, it's going to be like a weight on your shoulders. It's like, man, why does my body always hurt? And sometimes it's just the things that you carry around, and you've got to learn to let that go. I'm telling you, we're in a time where we have to love the Lord with all our hearts, forgive those who come against us, and just keep moving forward. Because at the end of the day, I want to make it up top. I want to hear, you did good, my faithful servant. I don't want to be like, flee away from me because I don't know you, because I didn't do what God has called me to do. I want you guys to be a light to others and help guide them. That's what we're here for, too, to help guide you. And Brother Danny, who's been talking even before Pastor comes out, he'll tell you, we have to help others. Like he said earlier, we have to be that beacon. We have to be that light. And he's been telling us that week after week, but we have to get that. We have to be that light for others. We can't just stay in our own bubble and be like, oh, hey, how are you? But we don't invest in each other. We don't take the time to invest the Lord into each other and help them and pray for them and help them receive their healing, because sometimes you don't know what other people are going through, but your testimony might be what somebody needs to hear to get their healing. It might be what someone needs to get their healing, and you never know. You never know. People come from all walks of life, and don't ever discourage someone sharing their story. It's funny, I'm at work, and I deal with all sorts of types of people. Crazy people, just people all over the world, They're just different. Like in my field, that's what I do. I just deal with people, asking them to leave. But what I've realized with that, there are some people that come talk to me. I don't even know who these people are, and they'll tell me their life story. I actually had a lady who came up to me and was telling me all about what's going on in her life. Like, my son is in ICU, can you pray? I didn't know this lady. She didn't know who I was and just asked me if I could pray. And I was like, okay, I'll pray. And she was just a regular customer. I'd never known this lady in my life, but she knew that she'd come to ask me for prayer. Her spirit knew that that's somebody that I need to talk to. I need to get prayer from. I know that my son can get healed if I talk to him and pray, ask for prayer. I know the healing will begin. And praise God, this man was in ICU, and he was on ventilator, everything. I saw her next time. He's back home. He's healing in the process of recovery. I said, you never know. Your testimony may heal someone. Your testimony may start the healing process and get them where they need to be. That's why I wanted to share some of my testimony tonight, the things I've been through. Because you guys need to know, look, just because we're up here talking and we're giving the word doesn't mean we don't go through things either. We're not perfect. I'm far from it, let me tell you. But at least God is working on me and praying with me and helping me forgive and heal and helping others. If I can help others forgive and heal, I want to do that. So tonight,